Hey guys, welcome back to the Franchise Tagged Podcast, Season 2, Episode 15. Coming back at you with another one. Check out the Spotify, as always, as ever. We always upload there, the same time as the podcast. So, if you would like to get your podcast through your ear holes instead of your eye holes, check it out there. Now, would you like to run them down our schedule of things for the day?
Yep, we're kicking it off like usual with a game-by-game recap. We're going over Thursday Night Football. We got a couple ones in the early slate of Sunday that we're talking about. Then we're going to go with the rest of the prime time with Sunday night and Monday Night Football. Then we're going to go ahead, recap how our PickEms did after last week, and wrap it up with a nice little segment akin to our, Chiefs, the little thing we're going on right now where we did the Chiefs, the Lions, and the Patriots. We are now wrapping another one of the AFC East. Surprise! You gotta watch to know what's going on there, and then we will do our usual stock segment, see if there's any updates, any moves being made there, and give us our pick'ems for the next week. So, with that, I can kick us off because once again it's a Lions Thursday Night Football game, and this one's in the division. It's a strong rivalry that I think we have built up with the Packers because the Packers are so used to winning these games against the Lions that now it's close. Now it's like intense, and NFC North is a powerhouse. It feels like, cough cough. There's like one little guy hanging out at the bottom.
Hey, he's doing all right.
I think there was a conversation we had a little earlier in the podcast talking about like, oh, this could be a time when there's four, divisional, like all teams make the playoffs in the division.
I think that was when the Bears were 4-2. They have since lost 7 straight. So
yeah, and that'll do that.
6 straight, however many straight. They have not won a game since they were 4-2. It's been a rough look for the Bears, but I mean they've got the pieces in place to be a strong team. We were just a little, never wrong, just early on that prediction. So, sure, in the near future that'll happen. But yeah, this Thursday Night Football game, I think, very good candidate for game of the year. I didn't watch through the lens of looking at the refs, so I don't know if there was any blatant missed calls or anything like that because I really wasn't paying attention the same way I do other games. But this felt like a really good game, a game of the year candidate even. And ultimately, from the outside looking in at this rivalry, I have strong ties to both teams. My dad has been a Packers fan his entire life, and you are a Lions fan, and a very strong Lions fan at that. So I like both teams, and I think that both teams coming out of this game should feel very, very well about how their team performed. The Lions obviously were the favorites going into it. They were the 1 seed in the NFC, so they're always going to be favored in any NFC matchup they go into, and they squeaked out a close win, but that shows that they can squeak out those close wins against good teams, and the Packers, they were in it up until the end with the number 1 seed in the NFC. So it shows that they can hang with the big boys and not just beat up on anybody else. So I think this is definitely a playoff preview for sure. If we're ever so lucky, this could be an NFC Championship game preview. And
don't even utter those words to me. All right, we're not looking that far ahead.
Hey. The Packers in NFC Championships, not a good record. Ask my dad.
Yeah, this was a great game to watch. I mean, it shows up in the numbers too. If you had seen that, it's like the highest stream. Like Amazon got the rights for Thursday Night Football a few years ago. It's the best numbers they've seen on a Thursday Night Football game. So clearly, a lot of people were tuning in to see the top of the NFC try to defend that title, to hold on to that against what's a very tight division, like the Vikings on our tail, the Eagles on our tail. Like, you can't drop one this late in the game right now. And yeah, it was a great showing. Like, it was Dan Campbell football, went for it 5 times on 4th down, and I felt that, I was seeing this narrative more so in like where I like locally, like Lions were like, why did we go for that last 4th down? I feel like you kicked the field goal. There's just like, to me, you're putting the ball in their court to win the game if you kick the field goal and tie it. And meanwhile, if you convert, then they go ahead and you have like the game mostly wrapped up because you get to use your timeouts and you decide everything. It's just on the kick.
Yeah, I did want to comment on that and ask you a couple things about that specific decision, because there has been a lot of talk about it, and there's been a lot of talk not just from your local media there, but from national media about that not being a great decision, and the analytics say don't do that. And there's been some pushback on Dan Campbell's aggressiveness, but I will say that that's what's gotten them this far in the first place. Like they've gotten this far because of their fourth down aggressiveness. And I understand that maybe in this situation, maybe you kind of take a step back and you're like, okay, we normally go for it on fourth down. We're normally really aggressive, but this is a different part of the game. This is to go ahead with less than 5 minutes left in the game. So maybe we should choose a little bit differently on this. But to me, I think the decision was much less based on whether or not they could get that fourth down, or whether or not they could kick that field goal, or whether or not that field goal was a good thing. And more of you've got, is it 17 players on defense that are missing or on IR? There's a lot.
13 on IR, and then there was a couple injuries during the game. Ali McNeil exited the game with a head injury. Yeah, I wouldn't have trusted our defense to stop a team that knows they need a touchdown. Yes, they don't need the touchdown. They could have, if they kicked that field goal, the Packers could reply with just a field goal, but the Packers are going to play extra aggressive, because now it's like, okay, ball's in our court, we're going to go for the touchdown because we don't want this thing going another quarter. We don't want their offense to touch the ball again. So I feel like if the situation is there where each team is thinking to themselves, we don't want the other offense to have the ball, why not be the first offense to make the play, to not let the other team get the opportunity? And yeah, I very much agree with the move, because it feels that being passive in that spot, that'll lose you the game. If you're passive there, if you're currently tied, then you don't pick up that fourth down, and it's still going to be tied. Then they're going to be able to drive down the field, not that far, but they have no timeout. So you really restrict them on where they can go to get into this field goal range. So it's honestly if you kick the field goal, you put yourself in a harder situation than if you don't, because they'll be more conservative, because they don't want to make a big play for the defense. They don't want to give the ball away. They don't want to make a mistake. They're going to play extra conservative with that. And so I think not giving them that opportunity was the best way to win that game. Yeah,
it's, defense got to make a stop either way. If you don't get it on fourth, or if you kick the field goal, your defense still has to make a stop. So the first down, or the going for it, at least gives you a chance of your defense not having to see the field. So I completely disagree with anybody that says that was a bad decision. Obviously, in hindsight, it was the perfect decision. But I think even if
well, actually, it was the worst one. It was just the ref's fault that they won, because obviously he gave himself up and he took a knee.
Yeah, obviously. That's the stupidest take I've ever seen, dude. Because you know what? You want that to be the case? Every field goal doesn't count. Congratulations, the holder took a knee. The holder doesn't want to get tackled. He's giving himself up. He's on his knee. It's the most ridiculous take I've heard out of anything this season, and I've seen some crazy shit, man. But we can move into the Sunday daytime games. Move off of this Thursday night football game. We've been talking about it for quite a while, but great game. And into the Falcons. And you watched that game.
Sad.
I opted to watch the Jameis show. And
you probably had more fun.
Oh, for sure. It was not a good game for the Browns, but the Jameis show is always entertaining.
The Jameis is always entertaining, yeah. With this game, they went ahead and I think they showed some stat. It was kind of ridiculous, and a very long streak of not having a first drive touchdown for the Falcons. They went ahead and they did that. They started off points on the board. Minnesota tied them up. And I was thinking, okay, this is going to be a good game. And then it was it's like Kirk is just too used to passing to purple and gold. So, there's an interception. There's some very, very questionable, as we just talked about with the fourth down decisions, very questionable decisions to go for it on fourth down for the Falcons. They converted 1 out of their 3 attempts on fourth down. And only, one of those attempts was when it's you're basically already losing the game. There's no point of it. So you went 0-2. in ones that would have mattered, and it was incompletion, incompletion, second and third down, and guess what? We're still going to pass on fourth down on 4th and 5. There was not great decision making in that department, it seems, of the offense on that note. Like, you have no rhythm. Why are you attempting this? And then to really pile on to the lack of rhythm, you have Kirk Cousins, who is going out there and he's throwing accurate balls, but he's like just completely missing the defender that is definitely going to intercept that. Like, he's throwing a ball that would be caught by a player if there was a defensive player 3 feet in front of him waiting like this, like running a hitch route. It was a rough look for Kirk, and Sam Darnold, he made some great plays. There were some mistakes on the Falcons' defense for sure. Jesse Bates, I felt, was playing very instinctual, and that wasn't helping them. He was trying to like pigeonhole Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold's like running, and he's like, oh, clearly he's going to just run into the flat, so I'm going to run to the flat, and okay, you just left this deep post wide open, and no, that's what's going to be caught. It's a little bit too instinctual on the defensive side of things, and then the Falcons' offense doesn't really have a rhythm, and they're like, they're feeding Bijan, and Bijan's like, he's doing good, but when you get down in the game and then you're like over aggressive on 4th down, and now you're really passing heavy and like, it's kind of been the thing for most of Kirk's career, where I think passing a lot late in games doesn't really lead to much for him. It's very rare that is actually like a positive on his belt, and they don't seem to understand that in Atlanta.
Yeah. What do you think about the idea? I know Raheem Morris has said that it's still Kirk's team. He has the right to right the ship. And I appreciate that sentiment, but what do you feel about Michael Penix and the idea of him maybe coming in and getting some reps, especially towards the end of the season, if they do become out of the playoff race? What do you think about the idea of getting Penix his game reps?
Yeah, I mean, with the division how it is, I'd imagine that like that's going to be a week 18, just like only like it's there. It's very tight, and they have a losing record. So I could definitely see it being a like, okay, week 18, we're going to give Penix his reps because we are eliminated. I don't see Penix getting time before they're eliminated because yes, Kirk has had this like really bad run right at this like pretty crucial part of the season. But you would still want the guy who you expect to be your starter next year, if that's their expectation for him, which I would imagine. You would want him to get a rhythm at the end of the year to kind of carry over.
I guess the point of my question, I know they're going to go to Kirk next year. He will be their starter next year because they don't have an out. They're paying him all the money. Like he's going to be the starter there. But should they? Like, should they move to Penix? Do you think Kirk is the correct choice, despite it being the one they're going to make?
I think, honestly, with the situation, it'd probably be better to see a little bit of what Penix has sooner, to know, like, before the offseason hits. Like, okay, here's what we really want you to work on after we got to see these, like, 70 reps from you over these 2 games or what have you. Like, here's some stuff we really want you to work on because we're seeing live game reps of your processing. And that's better for the organization as a whole moving into next year and into the succession plan after the fact, because you can't have Penix when it's time to shine and you're like, oh yeah, it's his 3rd, 4th year in, and we're going to hope that he's Jordan Love without seeing any field snaps and having that like direct, here's the proof that you are what we say you are. Here's what we expect from you, like the game reps, the film itself to analyze there.
All right. And then we can get into the Bills and Rams game, which was a shootout. Josh Allen 6 touchdown performance. We discussed this, so we do our franchise tagged player of the week every week, and we were kind of struggling to find out who it was going to be this week. It was between Puka, Sam Darnold, and Josh Allen. I think were our three best options, and you said that Sam Darnold really capitalized on some blown coverages and some, like, he made good plays, but it wasn't like a quintessential Sam Darnold performance, like a masterclass or anything. He was just going against a bad defense, so he's going to get that. And I was like, okay, that's fair. And then between Josh Allen and Puka, Josh Allen had 6 touchdowns, but if I'm going to discredit Jalen Hurts for his tush-push touchdowns, I'm going to keep that same energy with Josh Allen and not give him the same amount of credit that I would for 3 tush-push touchdowns as I would for 3 20-yard rushing touchdowns. And I don't hold Josh Allen in as negative of an overall light because he doesn't do that. Like, that's not a standard Josh Allen performance or practice. It is a standard Jalen Hurts practice to get to the one and get the tush-push. That's like, I saw somebody in some Twitter replies today being like, oh, Josh Allen's just a tush-push merchant. And I'm like, dude, this is the first time I've seen him do the tush-push ever. You know how many times I've seen him hurdle a defender on his way to a big run?
Truck a guy
just
like,
as many
into the end
times
zone?
as I've seen him do a tush. Like, he is not a tush-push merchant. This is not standard Josh Allen play. But ultimately, we did kind of knock the touchdowns a little bit for that. And obviously, he was making good plays to get them down to the one because they didn't have good running back play. So it's not like they were running the ball down to the one and then Josh Allen was vulturing these touchdowns. It was like really good plays by Josh Allen into tush pushes by Josh Allen. But
yeah,
and
go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, and then the third guy was Puka, who had his great performance, but ultimately we've seen a lot better performances, and the stats, like
the target share was really like it's a large part of the offense. He's getting a lot of the opportunities there, so of course those numbers are gonna be the way they are.
Yeah, and it's not just that. For me, it was a little bit of like, I couldn't not include the rushing production because one of his touchdowns was rushing, so I couldn't just be like, oh, this was his receiving stat line and that's why he got player of the game, because then we'd only have one touchdown and that's just like, there are better performances. But including the rushing production means that I have to mark it as touches instead of receptions, and that makes him have like 17 or 18 touches instead of 12 catches for 160 yards, which I would argue is a little more impressive.
Yeah.
So it was just it was a weird situation. And then Jamar Chase, Monday night, I texted you. I was like, hey, Jamar Chase is just going to make this easy for us, right? And you were like, no, he's not until the last play. But yeah, the main gripe that I want to get to in this game, or do you have anything to mention about the...
No, I've got the gripe. That's...
The main gripe was the refereeing, and there were a lot of mistakes, but the one that I want to harp on a little bit more than the rest, because we saw a mirror image with an opposite result play out on Monday night, is the screen to Puka where Cooper Kupp was tackling the Bills DB, and he didn't get flagged for it, and I chalked it up to being like, okay, he was within like 3 yards of the line of scrimmage, and it's a screen pass, so like they're not really going to flag contact and stuff. Like, yeah, you might have been grabbing him and holding him, but like, it's okay, let the boys play, I'm cool with that as long as you stay consistent. And there was a much less obvious hold on a screen pass on Monday night, and they called it, and it was the same thing where it was like within a yard of the line of scrimmage, and he like, honestly, it was a better block and less of a hold than the Cooper Kupp one, but they called that and called back like a 30-yard gain. And I was like, okay, well then don't do it for the Rams then. Like, stay consistent. And I know that's a problem with the refs, is consistency, but it just felt like they were either calling everything really ticky-tack or missing something that was really easy to call. And it was just really annoying to see what ended up being such a close game have so many pivotal calls where it would have been a different result. I don't know if it would have been a different outcome, but it would have played out differently if the calls were correct. And that's the biggest like pain. Like, even if the calls are all made correctly and the same outcome in the game, cool. I don't like that's awesome. I don't hate the Rams for winning. I had picked the Bills. I wanted the Bills to win, but it's not like I'm going to hold it against the refs because the Bills lost. I'm holding it against the refs because the refs suck more than the outcome.
I was not mad that the Rams won either, because it's fun to finally see that offense hit a gear that we haven't seen from them this season. And, I had the Bills locked, and that record just gets worse. But I'm not thinking about that when I'm watching a game that's meant to be really good, really entertaining. I'm getting to see all of this stuff happening. But I see, like, the refs coming into play after... It felt like there was, like, a 3-play stretch where it was penalty, and I'm like, oh my, can we move past this? Can we be done with this? Because I want them to just either start calling everything, because you're missing obvious things when you're calling these ticky-tack ones, or just, let them play football a little bit. Like, come on, make up your mind, because they were doing both in the same game.
Yeah. It was, refs got the spotlight in that one. My way of watching where the refs win games if they throw more flags than points scored. Don't think that would have happened in a 42-44 game, but man, these refs were trying. they were playing their asses off, man, throwing all those flags out there. And maybe if we because I saw a couple plays where there were like 4 flags flying in at the same time. Maybe if we count that for 4 points, maybe they've got a chance at that one. But yeah, it's just such a pity. We were also talking about this. Like this being 2 really good games with the Lions Packers and then the Bills Rams. And I was like, this could have been game of the week as well. And you were like, yeah, but not with how the refs played this one. I was like, yeah. All right, the
refs, I mean, they played really bad. I would honestly bench the refs next week for the Bills and Rams. Honestly, I don't care how much they're getting paid, their contract. I don't care about the dead cap. Just bench them now.
100% agree.
And we can be quick with this one.
Yeah, we can move on.
Don't you worry your sweet little head.
Thank you. Sunday Night Football, the black magic continues. And I'm going to insert the they can't keep getting away with this into this. The Chiefs, the divisional doink. It's just
what a fun ending.
Yeah, it's just really annoying because I feel like if this were any team that isn't the Chiefs, I'd be like, all right, the wheels are falling off eventually. Like they won't keep getting away with this.
Yeah.
But since it's the Chiefs, I'm like, they're either going to completely turn the season around and like actually just become a good football team overnight, or they're going to continue to get lucky throughout the postseason, throughout the playoffs, and they're going to just en route to another Super Bowl, and it's going to be the worst, like most stumbling into a success story that we've seen. And I'm
thinking they're just going to stumble their way into the playoffs, and then they're going to be in the playoffs, get a bye week, and then Andy Reid's just going to cook up something insane.
It's either going to be like a run play where they're just like gets hit from the right, spins off it, stumbles a little bit, but then gets hit from the left and like bounces off the other way and just like continuously getting ping pong down the field. And then the biggest hit is going to be the playoffs. And then it's just going to completely straighten them up and just erase all the other hits they've taken, and they're just going to straight to the end zone. Or they're just going to continue.
Derrick Henry on the Titans type run for sure. Like that's what this stretch of games is going to be. It's either going to be Derrick Henry on the Titans, or it's going to be like
Beastquake. Like,
yeah, for sure.
I'm to the point now where I think I can appreciate the absurdity more than I can hate the actual outcomes. As much as I do dislike the outcomes being just so consistently. The Chiefs getting lucky, or occasionally the refs favoring the Chiefs.
Point,
it's so insane that I can't even be mad at it anymore. Cause this is like, hopefully, God, I hope we will never see this again. See, you gotta appreciate the absurdity while it's happening.
Oh my goodness. No, wait till next year when they run,
Wait till next year when the Chiefs kneel the ball every play and win a game 2-0.
Like 11-0-2, electric boogaloo, and they go ahead and they pull a Steelers, lucking into just wins after wins. This is honestly, there's not much to talk about. You got a kicker who's pretty damn new, and he's got a pretty easy one to make, and it still manages to make everyone think just for a second that the Chiefs are about to lose it, but they got away with it. And then just to quickly touch on something, because you had brought it up, so I'm not sure if there's more probably more widespread slight confusion on it, is the clock management by the Chargers late in the game. The simplest way I can break it down for for analysis sake, I'll make it quick. Usually, you see people wait for the 2-minute, and then they use their timeouts after the fact, and that allows for 4 clock stoppages. The way that the Chargers played it was, I think it was around 3 minutes were left, and the first timeout was called for the Chargers, and there was, I think it was after a play, they call a timeout, and then, or a play happens around 3 minutes, then they line up, then they go again, and then they call their timeout. And so there's around 2 minutes and 34 seconds, because they call their timeout and you're looking at it and you're like, okay, they can run down all 34 seconds, and then you get your free timeout that you get, or we can call our timeouts right now. So we're going to have to burn all 3 prior to the 2-minute warning. And then when the 2-minute warning hits, that's our 4th timeout. So we're getting all of this out of the way before the 2-minute warning with hopes of we're going to get a stop here. Regardless of the fact that when they called the first timeout, it was on I think it was 2nd or 3rd down. It was after the 2nd down, I think, prior to a 3rd and short.
Yeah,
So,
that was my main confusion, was that it was on a whatever and short. I was like, that feels like a time where you don't call a timeout because you know they're going to just get a first down the next play. But
yes.
Ultimately, by the end of the game, when they didn't get the ball back, I was like, okay, they were just doing literally anything they could to get the ball back, and no amount of tossing the timeouts around was going to get them the ball back. So it doesn't ultimately, like, you call the timeouts when you can, and you try to get it back with as much time left.
If you think about it, like, okay, it's a 3rd and short, they're going to pick this up easy. Do I want to let them pick it up easy in 34 seconds when the 2-minute warning hits, or sooner? So
I thought they called their first timeout much earlier than that, but maybe I'm misremembering that.
All right. Do you want to get into Monday night?
Yeah, Monday Night Football was not a fun game to watch. I actually fell asleep right before the 2-minute warning of the first half. I was laying in my bed watching the game on my phone, and then I just, like, it went to commercial. I closed my eyes. I opened my eyes, and the third quarter was kicking off, and I was like, nice. All right.
Nice. I fast traveled.
But
Time skip.
the biggest takeaway from this game is I don't know how the Bengals are going to pay Jamar Chase, because he's probably going to be encroaching on Joe Burrow type money after this performance. And if they, I mean, Joe Burrow in an interview was like, no, we want to keep T. Higgins around as well. Like, they want to keep that core together. I just don't see how they're going to make that happen when they're not succeeding with that core right now. Their offense is succeeding, but they clearly need to build up their defense and get a lot better on defense to have any sort of impact on the game itself. And I think that any number of wide receiver 2s can fill the role T. Higgins is playing, because he's not playing to his full potential at the moment as a wide receiver 2, which is why I feel like they don't need him. It'd be great. It's great to have 2 wide receiver 1s. That way, if somebody is doubled, you can, the other one can just become the wide receiver 1 for the game. But it just feels unnecessary. And
it feels that you could spread the ball out more. Like, okay, Jamar's getting tripled. We have our tight end, we have our running back, and we have a wide receiver 2 who isn't quite T. Higgins level. Like, yes, having T. Higgins for those games where he gets like 120 yards is great, but I feel that you lose T. Higgins and you delegate some more talent to other positions. Right now, I'm not super confident in the receiving out of the backfield. I'm not super confident in the longevity of the tight end play for them. They're going good with it this year, but I imagine it's not going to last that much longer. Just given where I know Gesicki, I think it is, right?
Yeah.
Is that in his career? So I feel like you inject some new talent to those positions, and you get a lot cheaper, return on that if you just draft like one receiving guy for the replacement for T, and you kind of just delegate out instead of the like, oh, Jamar, I can't feed it to him, I'll feed it to T. Strategy there.
And I mean, they kind of already did. They drafted Jermaine Burton this past draft, and that he was a fringe second round guy where I was like, he could be a second rounder. He could honestly could have gone early second even. And I think there's still some potential and some production they can get out of him. So I don't see the reason to keep T. And maybe as a selfish Patriots fan, I'm hoping they don't.
I was noticing a little bit of perhaps an agenda being pushed.
Dude, speaking of agendas being pushed, Isaac Guerrero agenda, MVP, baby. I posted that short, and then he had a pretty good week. Some tutties, and the injury sucks, but it's not a major injury, thank God. So maybe he'll play this week. Maybe he'll play on Thursday, and I'll get to watch my boy.
I just typed the name Isaac into Google, and it went Isaac Guerrero, then Isaac Newton. So I think the agenda has been pushed.
I've done my job. I've done my part.
Pretty strongly.
All right. We can get into the PickEms recap if you have nothing else to say about the Monday night game.
Yeah, Cowboys, still them boys.
Are we still done, boys?
That's all.
DeMarvion Overshone. That sucks to see. He reported today that he tore his ACL, MCL, and PCL, and he will likely be back for the 2026 season. So around 15-month recovery time, I think, is the estimate on that.
And that's what he gets to play like a year and a half out of his rookie contract.
He was showing some flashes too, and the Twitter doctor, he was saying that injury, like that amount of ligament damage and everything, typically leads to a
decline in
big
production.
dip in production the first year back, but a resurgence the second year back. So I don't think he'll be good for the Cowboys, and I can only hope that they'll pay him anyways and get him on a prove it deal, and then give him that opportunity for the 2027 season maybe. But that's way down the line.
Yep. Then onto the quick pick'ems recap. I went 8-5. I had a kind of rough showing. I started off a little hot and then really petered off. But I did go 8-5. My lock did miss on the Bills, so I am sitting at 8-6 in the lock record. And then I was 132 to 76 for my overall record there. You much outperformed me. You started off on a big heater and only dropped 3 on those last like half of the games. So you went 10-3, and then you went ahead and had a total record, really outpacing me strong in this. I wonder how it's going to look when we combine our 2 seasons of pick'em records together. But you are sitting at 12-2 on your lock record and 140 to 68 on your overall record. So we'll see how much you do better than me overall for the first 2 years, after I thought I did pretty decently better than you in year 1.
Yeah, looking at last season's records, you predicted 9 more games correctly than I did. So you went 175 and I went 166 for correct picks.
So we're sitting at a gap similar to the difference between us last year.
Yeah. And then the pick'ems, or the locks, I mean, is where it's really going to show, because we were only 2 different there, and this year we're 4 different with 4 games to go, I believe, or 4 weeks to go. So, this will be a nice closeout to the season, and I'm looking forward to seeing the end of it. But if that is all for the rest of the recaps and everything, then we can get into the Jets and the discussion on them. The Jets have been crashing and burning for my entire life, but really it's been exacerbated these recent few years, and it's kind of ticked over the top with the current era that they're in. So we're going to go ahead and take a look back at the Robert Saleh era of, I believe it was 2021 onward. That was also subsequently when they took Zach Wilson 2nd overall. So that kind of is the start of this era, new head coach, new QB. And we're going to take a look at what led to him being fired, what has happened since he's been fired, and then the outlook onto their offseason, what roster moves we think they should make, some players we think they may move on from, and all of that. So I know you did a lot of the research on the Robert Saleh era itself. So if you would like to kick us off there and discuss some of the highlights here, then go for it.
Yep. So this was, as a Lions fan, this was kind of a tight little thing, because the Robert Saleh, Dan Campbell, both hired in the same year. So there was kind of like some talk of like, oh, who got the right guy? And, 4 years later, I wouldn't really say that Robert Saleh is the wrong guy. I think it was the wrong organization, because there's certainly a lack of faith, and we'll get into that when we get into the more current times of Robert Saleh. But starting off in 2021, this roster was not a great one. They did have very notable strong pieces on the defense with Quincy Williams, Bryce Hall, and Michael Carter. Sorry, Michael Carter's the DB. Bryce Hall was not.
No, both DBs.
No, Brees Hall is who I'm thinking of. These damn names. And they have Michael Carter the second. I'm just, okay. Nonetheless.
Michael Carter the second is the DB. Michael Carter, the other one, is the running back from UNC.
And I mixed it up because, of course, they are similar positions with similar names, and similar, the fact that there's 2 of those positions and names. And, of course, as he mentioned with Zach Wilson, this season for them would unequivocally suck. Offensively, they were ranking 28th, and then defensively, they ranked 32nd. So you hire in Bob Saleh. This is a a good defensive coordinator from a good organization, and this is the first season, you maybe start having some doubts from this defensive head coach. But in 2022, they really take a step, like huge step, because they go ahead and they get rookie Sauce Gardner, and he gets a Pro Bowl season. Quinnen Williams gets a Pro Bowl season. And while Zach Wilson and his effectiveness on the offense doesn't improve, in fact, it actually decreased because they went from ranking 28th in the league to 29th in the league. The defense did jump up to being fourth best. And this was kind of the stretch of the years where they're not super bad like they were, but they're not good enough. And they need that little push. And so after the 2 seasons of that, you look at the team and they're really trying to make a big splash. And so heading into 2023 is when the Aaron Rodgers big splash happened. They go ahead and they make that big trade, and they brought in Nathaniel Hackett as the offensive coordinator because they, really wanted to lay some little treats for Aaron Rodgers to nibble on as he made his way into the Jets building, and then they locked him in. A real animal control vibe and an analogy I was going with there, but Nathaniel Hackett, comes in to be the offensive coordinator, and Aaron Rodgers, and there's so much hype. It was meteoric because Aaron Rodgers had been playing so great the years prior with his MVPs, and then, his Achilles had other things to say. So now he's right back to coaching a team that has Zach Wilson leading the offense. Nathaniel Hackett, who I think we can all agree wasn't in his best bag as offensive coordinator of the past few years. He didn't get this offensive coordinator job because he got promoted. No. He got demoted. He was fired, and this is his landing spot after that. But defensively,
and it was just as incentive for Aaron Rodgers as well. It's not because he's some offensive mastermind. It was like, hey, Aaron, we got you.
Yeah, it was, hey, we still suck offensively, so this will at least be a lateral move. And, hey, Aaron, you really wanted to come to New York, right? You love a big market. Career was not in a big market, but you love a big market, right? But defensively, the team would still see Sauce Gardner and Quinnen Williams make the Pro Bowl, and then they added Quincy Williams and Jermaine Johnson the second, each being Pro Bowlers and all pros as well. So, this defense continually, since the onset, really bad, improves. And then they maintain that improvement in 2023. And then when everything is all set, Aaron Rodgers, yes, he had his injury. It was kind of a fluke. For some reason, Achilles in 2023, that was just a touchy subject for quarterbacks especially. But, he's coming back from his injury, and we've gotten another offseason, and we're ready to go. Like, everyone's ready. The defense is going to be great, and the offense really showed flashes under Zach Wilson, so imagine what we can do with Aaron Rodgers. And so things are primed, and then that's when I'm going to pass it off to you, which is the 2024 season.
Yeah, so I'm going to look a little bit more into the exact stats of this season in particular, because I kind of give last season a wash, no Aaron Rodgers, which you planned on having all year. And so leading into this year, like you said, there was a lot of hype, a lot of hope for the Jets organization. You get rid of Zach Wilson, you're like, now we're fully hoping Aaron Rodgers is the future for at least this year, maybe gets us to the playoffs, maybe puts us in a good position to take care of a slightly questionable looking AFC East. The Bills lost a lot of players, and it seemed like there was a power vacuum of sorts that the Jets might be able to fill if they're really good. So before they fired Robert Saleh, which was the Vikings game of week 5, it was after that game they fired him. And the stats before firing him, they were 2-3, so they had 2 wins, 3 losses. They were scoring 18.6 points per game and allowing just 17 defensive points per game. They were going for 286.6 offensive yards per game and allowing 255.8 defensive yards per game, with losses to the 49ers, the Broncos, and the Vikings, which, honestly, looking back on it, a healthier Niners squad, an overperforming expectations Broncos squad, and the Vikings, who are extremely good, those are realistic, honorable losses for the Jets to take against some stronger defenses. And, so their offensive struggles, may not have been entirely the fault of the coaching staff. It may have been more of these are just really strong teams that we're playing.
Yeah.
And we are winning some good games. They beat the Patriots pretty damn handedly with Robert Saleh, unfortunately. But since firing Robert Saleh, they have jumped up their offensive production a little bit at 19.8 points per game, but they have allowed almost 10 more points defensively per game at 26.9 versus 17 before firing him. And they've gone 1-7 in that stretch. So the biggest thing that I think is notable, I mean, the defensive points per game is insane, right? They have jumped up in offensive yards per game from 286 to 308. So they've gotten a little bit better offensively. But defensively, they went from allowing just over 250 to allowing over 330 yards per game defensively. And like I said before, they were struggling on offense, I think, because of the teams they were facing having really strong defenses. So I think that their offensive ranks now would have been identical to their offensive ranks before had they played the same schedule. Had they kept Robert Saleh, I don't think they lose any offensive production, despite having a defensive head coach. And then the losses...
I mean, you see a 1 point difference. Like, it's so negligible because you've played... It's 5 games to 8 games. Like, it's not a perfectly equal ratio that we're looking at here. So, yeah, there's might be a slight favor, especially considering the opponents there. And then, you know, just to finish up on the defense itself, when you look at the yards and the yards allowed prior, you are hiring your defensive coordinator now to be your interim. He is now a lot less hands-on with the defense than he was prior. That's going to cause the defense to slip and not have as close preparations as when he didn't have to oversee the entire team.
And not just that, but the thing about a defensive head coach and then also having a defensive coordinator is you don't know who's calling the shots. But with Robert Saleh being a defensive coordinator for the 49ers and then leaving and being the Jets head coach and leading really strong defenses, you kind of know he's the reason for that. Mm-hmm. So it's not like Jeff Ulbrich is this defensive mastermind that's taken everything from Robert Saleh and can orchestrate a defense perfectly in his wake. And then just to touch on their losses, they lost to the Bills, the Steelers, the Patriots, the Cardinals, the Colts, the Seahawks, and the Dolphins since firing Robert Saleh. And that is a lot less honorable than those losses earlier in the season. So ultimately, this is just a discussion of the pre and post Saleh firing. I don't think it's a stretch at all to say they made a horrific decision by letting him go. And I think he will land on a team and do very well next year as a head coach, if not at least a defensive coordinator.
Yeah, I mean, when the Lions lose Aaron Glenn, hey man,
hey Bobby,
I wouldn't be mad. We both were very much keen on Robert Saleh as a head coach, and we did not agree with them firing him whatsoever when it happened, because they are still vying for the division at that time. And since you're 1-7 and 3 losses, you know, you've lost to every team in the division since. It's not a great look for them. And with them now being officially eliminated from playoff contention after their last loss to the Dolphins, which, you know, it was a long shot to begin with when you're sitting at a 1-6 streak, a 1-7, and now you're eliminated, you're out of it. And now we can kind of start to look at the future for this team, because it looks bleak. It looks very bleak with how Aaron Rodgers has been playing for the team, and when you look at, you know, the overall construction of the roster. And this is another section I did a decent amount of the research in, and I do want like your opinions on part of it. But just to put the facts out there with the projected facts, I suppose, with the projected draft selections for the team. Right now they're sitting at pick 7. They would be then picking at 38 and 96. I wanted to kind of give a full top 100 pick list for them, just to not, if they didn't have their second rounder, that's a lot more important, but to give a sense of where they sit at in those first 3 rounds. So they're sitting, you know, pretty healthy, I would say. You got 3 picks in the top 100. You unfortunately don't have your own 3rd round pick. You have the Detroit Lions, but you got your own 1 and 2, and you're playing bad, so you've got some good draft capital there. But heading into free agency, you're sitting at 21st in the league in projected cap space with $32 million. And that's when I start to kind of hypothesize some things. And do you have anything to say on my hypothesations prior to me saying them?
Yeah, so I'll just kind of get into some of the things you've written here. I think that the idea of moving away from the Aaron Rodgers era in New York is definitely the move. Getting away from Aaron Rodgers, getting away from his goons that he brings with him, Nathaniel Hackett, Alan Lazard, Randall Cobb was there for a minute, right? Mm-hmm. Like this is literally just Aaron Rodgers being like, these are my boys, I want them on this team, and aye Captain, we got you. We'll trade away Mike Williams, that's fine. So I think moving away from that era is the right move. However, I think it's really tough to do that when the upcoming free agent class for QBs is really not glamorous, and the upcoming draft class for QBs is equally not glamorous. You've got like some possible starters in the future. I like Cam Ward, but I think he will probably go within the top 3. And I think that, maybe you take a flyer on a Drew Aller out of Penn State and hope that he turns into the next Josh Allen or something, as that's kind of his, rough but athletic profile. Well, okay, all right. It's the same profile as Anthony Richardson though as well, where it's like he's got the tools, he just doesn't have the polished nature on
aspect of it. Yep.
Getting away from the potential draftees, I don't know if there's a better option in free agency or the draft than just sticking it out with Aaron Rodgers for another year. His cap hit in 2025 is only $9.5 million. That's what that number is, right?
No, that is the cap saving. So that is how much they would be saving if they cut him. Well, so they would be gaining 10 mil, rounding up there, in 2025, and then saving the 30 mil in 2026.
I think either way, 10 million I don't think is enough to get rid of Aaron Rodgers when I'm not sure if he is the worst option for you. Yeah. If he wants to return as a Jet, which he has said he does. So if he's willing to return to the team, I think you cut him after the 2025 season and hope that there's a better quarterback coming out of college then. But I don't know, man. It's looking bleak. And another thing, maybe Jordan Travis, they drafted him pretty late in the draft because of his injuries, and maybe he ends up being this, you take a late round flyer and it works out. But I do agree with probably gearing towards moving away from Aaron Rodgers and his goons, definitely getting rid of Nathaniel Hackett and saying, look, Aaron, we're not going to let you run this team because this is your last year with us. And we're not going to give you the reins to ruin our team just to have to fix it all next offseason when we're not paying you anymore. But yeah, if you want to get into what you think they should do with free agency, then I would like to hear.
I think you made a great point with okay, is it worth it or not right now to have Aaron Rodgers? Like, if you get rid of Nathaniel Hackett and you bring in a more competent OC, what can he do with Aaron Rodgers in what would be, kind of, unless he plays really well and gets a love for the football back, probably his final season, and move away from these, Alan Lazard is being paid a lot of money, 13 mil in both of these seasons. One of them, he takes dead cap in, so that's why that number is that. But when you try to gear up, you need to mainly acquire the talent to help the team. And in free agency, I don't think with $32 million you have much to make a splash to improve the defense. Yes, the defense is great. We've talked about the defensive roster. However, they have a lot of pieces that could likely be moving due to the fact that they only have $32 million to re-sign several pieces. And they also have been just struggling the rest of this season without Robert Saleh. Is that to say that they would have played better with Robert Saleh as the head coach? Maybe. Speculative there, but I would believe so, that the scheme isn't being implemented as well. And so my possible offseason moves were, sign a year or two rental for a quarterback, so you get a Andy Dalton I don't imagine Sam Darnold actually hits free agency, and you're not going to make that big of a splash.
Don't bring him back.
How he's played.
Don't do it.
Don't do it. That'd be silly. Don't do it. But I think that you, as you said, you kind of let a little buffer happen with quarterback because I had signing Andy Dalton as my pick after cutting Aaron Rodgers. And so you would do that. You acquire a top-end player for the offensive line because that's definitely a place where they have been struggling. It's part of why the reason the offense looks so rough is the health of the offensive line. So you acquire someone top-end on the offensive line through free agency because you actually have money for that. And then you draft defense because when you're sitting at 2 picks in the top 40, you want to build up the pieces that got you to this point. And offensively, you have an offense. You have drafted offense so heavily for all of these years because you wanted to see production rise. And it never really did. But defensively, you got defensive production because you drafted really good players at defense because you had so many picks high in the draft. And now you really need to key in on improving the defense to, well, not so much improve, but to be consistently good. Because after this season with potential losses to free agency, you could definitely be looking at next year. They are going to be bottom of the league, and they will be bottom of the league in both offense and defensive production, not just one of them. So I would really look to shore up the defensive side through the draft and then make offensive line additions because the offense as a whole, you got Devontae Adams, you got Garrett Wilson, and you got Breece Hall. Like, this is a great core of players in the skill positions. You just got to deepen up the trenches.
Yeah, and I think the trenches are not looking great in the draft. The offensive linemen, from what I've seen, there's a couple decent guys, but a lot of them are not top 10 pick worthy to me. But there are plenty of defensive players that definitely are. There's Will Johnson and Mason Graham, both Michigan guys.
Michigan guys, yep.
Yeah, Michigan corner, Michigan D tackle, where both of them are just basically like surefire prospects. And if you can, I mean, Will Johnson's a cornerback, so maybe don't go there. You don't really need to. But if you can shore up that D line, if you can get some better linebackers in there, maybe in the second round, whatever. But if you are a Jets fan, or actually, I should ask you, are anything else to say on the Jets as a whole?
I do not.
Okay. So yeah, if you are a Jets fan, or if you have any insight into some of the top prospects in this draft, definitely let us know who you think would be the best fit, what you think they should do offensively, if you think they should get rid of Aaron Rodgers and just throw Jordan Travis to the Wolves, let him start for a full season and see what you got there. That's always an option, just because if he sucks, then congrats, you have a top pick next year. And if he doesn't, hey, then you've got your quarterback. If you think they should do that, if you think they should go after a free agent guy, let us know what you think they should do, and if you think they can ever be good. Because as a Patriots fan, it's been great not seeing them ever be good, ever. But yeah, let us know your thoughts down in the comments, and if you want to stick around, keep watching the rest of this podcast. If this is just the segment video, it's coming out tomorrow in one day, 4 p.m. Central, 5 p.m. Eastern. Really had to think about that one. Got it right this time. And if you are here for the overall podcast, I appreciate you watching this far. And let us get into NFL stocks. All right, into stocks. We're here now. You can see the stocks up there. You can see what we got. And I will be making uno move today. I will be getting rid of my Texans stock. I made $25 on them. You know what? We're calling that a victory. I'm selling them for $625, which will bring me up to $2,400, if my math is correct. From $5,800 to $5,800. Woo! And then the rest of my stocks, I'm actually pretty keen on keeping them. I've got 2 of the Bucks, and they play the Chargers this week, which they might win, they might lose, but they play the Cowboys the next week. And I definitely think they'll win that one. So if they go 1-1 over the stretch, they don't lose any value, so I don't feel any pressure in selling them. The Rams just picked up a big game against the Bills, which gives me a ton of confidence in them going forward. And they play the 49ers this week, which is kind of a toss-up for me, and then the Jets the next week, which, again, I think they can win that one pretty easily. And it's the same as the Bucks, where if they go 1-1 over the next 2, don't lose any value. And then the Bengals. I have made a little bit of money on them. It is ever so tempting to sell because I've increased my value on them. However, they play the Titans this week, and I can't resist. The Titans are good, but I just don't see it. I just don't see it. And then the Browns the next week, which is just probably one that I don't trust them too well in. But we'll see how this week goes, and then see if I cry or not.
Yeah, I will not be making any stock moves. I feel that my profit on the Ravens isn't as high as I can rock with the Ravens. They're a good team. I'll stick with that. The Panthers, they lost and they lost no value. It's almost like I bought that for a reason. And I still see them as a team that's definitely trending upwards. They're playing top of the league in talent and opponents, and they're managing to stay in it, and they're managing to really threaten the teams that they're playing. So I do respect them, and I want them to pick up some down the stretch, not just for the stock, but because Bryce Young actually came back from being benched and he's playing good. The 49ers, I've lost money on. I'm not going to give up on the 49ers of all teams. And then I've got the Jags, who did win and have the most outrageously easy schedule left. I know that they play the Raiders. They play the Jets this week. And yeah, that's just teams I'm not super confident in being able to, not be a competitive and close game for the Jaguars. So I do have the hope that they will continue to increase and get me more profit there. And then I'm in the same boat with the Bengals. I'm pretty sure we bought in actually at the exact same times because we have the exact same profit on them. But yeah, the Bengals are playing great ball, and I hope to see that continue.
Yeah, the only move that I considered making in addition to my Texans sell was purchasing the Panthers, just because, like you said, they are playing good teams and they are keeping it real close. They actually should have beat the Eagles. I don't know if you saw how close that was, but Xavier Legette dropped a pass, and it wasn't even a drop. It was like ball hit the ground because he came down on it weird, and it's just the most unfortunate thing. And they don't have a super difficult schedule here on out. I'm trying to find them in week 16, find their game. They play the Cardinals in week 16, which is kind of a litmus test for me, and then Cowboys this week, which I think is a winnable one. But I'm very happy with the amount of money that I've made in stock so far, and I don't feel like I want to risk a ton of it right now, just because of how much I've already gained, and I just don't feel the need to. I feel like I'm starting to wind down my moves and starting to just sell off as the teams I have gain money. But if you would like, if you have no moves to make, then we will get straight into NFL PickEms, and we can start this one off with Thursday night, the Rams at the 49ers. And I have no idea what's going to happen here.
Yeah.
I'm going to take the Rams in this one because they're coming off such a strong, dominant victory against a good team. Not a dominant victory. They're coming off a strong performance and a victory against a really good team. And the 49ers are coming off a strong performance against a not so good team. So I have less confidence in them. And, my sweet baby boy, Isaac Garendo, he's not 100%. His foot hurts a little bit. So not super confident in them anymore.
Yeah, I am picking the 49ers just for the home field of a close divisional game. And I believe that the whole agenda is that the Rams always lose to the Niners, and they kind of upset the balance of the universe by beating them earlier in the year. So it's time for things to get back in balance, in my opinion. So I'm going 49ers there. And then with the Cowboys at Panthers, I'm going Panthers. It's shocking to say this. If you would have said this to a Cowboys fan preseason, I think they would have tried to flay you alive. But the Panthers are a tough competitive team, and the Cowboys just really aren't.
Yeah, I don't think you can be. I think flaying has to happen when you're alive, or it's not flaying. I think it's just skinning at that point. But yeah, so flay you alive, irrelevant to add that descriptor. But anywho, I've also got the Panthers in this one. So this is shocking for us both to be picking the Panthers in a game. I don't think it's a guarantee, but I do think they're outperforming expectations a ton now. And I think the overshown injury is going to hurt the Cowboys a lot more than maybe people think, because he's been cooking the last few weeks. He had that pick six. He had a lot of pressures, and then he's done now. So I think it'll be a bit of a tough go without him. And then we get into the Black Magic Kings, the Chiefs heading to Cleveland and taking on the Browns. Half of me is tempted to say that like Jameis will just counteract the Black Magic and he's just going to chuck that thing. And it's not like the Browns are not going to play a predictable game because it's Jameis. So the Chiefs may not be able to outwit them because there's no wit. It's just do whatever you feel like.
Just vibes.
It's no wit, just vibes. But I will be going with the Chiefs. I'm keeping with that mantra of if I pick them, I can't be mad when they win.
Yeah, Chiefs here as well. And then we've got the Dolphins at the Texans. This is a toss-up for me, really. I think the Dolphins have definitely came back very strong with their performances. But I'm feeling a Texans win. It's just like no wit, just vibes. That's my pick right here, is I'm going with the Texans.
I'm going to disagree with you here. I'm going to take the Dolphins. I think they've been a little stronger, and the Texans have shown some weaknesses, but they've also shown some strength. It just depends which Texans team we get any given Sunday. But I'm feeling the Dolphins in this one. Close one against the Jets doesn't give me a ton of confidence, but their offense has been really good, so I'm interested to see how the Texans defense can perform. I think they're getting some of their pieces back. So it is a little bit scary, and depending on some news in the week, if there's some injuries to the Dolphins or extra pieces coming back for the Texans, I may flip that. But for now, I'll take the Dolphins in this one. And then we get into I'm going to just call it the shit show of the week. I'm not going to do any discussion with you about it. The Jets at the Jaguars. Horrible game, It's not good. But I am going to take the Jets in this one. I don't know how or why they could win a football game, but I think if there is one to win, it is this one.
Yeah, I am going to be picking the Jaguars. I think I talked about it, but the Patriots, they let Mac Jones go so that way they could help the Patriots. Yeah, he's going to go ahead and he's going to beat the Jets because that's what he knows to do. And then we've got the Commanders at Saints. This one is like, I feel like I have a Cardinals curse. The curse I have with Cardinals, I have for the Saints as well. I'm going to go Commanders and hope that it's right.
Yeah, I hope you're right too, because I'm also picking the Commanders in that one. I think it's time for Jaden Daniels masterclass. Also, no Derek Carr, so we're either going to be seeing Jake Haener or Spencer Rattler. And it's a Marshawn Lattimore revenge game, and there's so much stacking up against the Saints that I just can't, in good conscience, pick them. And then we get into the Ravens at the Giants. I'm taking the Ravens, and this is my lock of the week. I have not locked the Ravens yet. I was kind of shocked to see that, and this is kind of the easiest pick of the slate for me to say that the Ravens are going to beat the Giants. They need to bounce back after a tough loss in Week 13, and then They did lose Week 13, right? Yes, they lost to the Eagles, and then they had a bye week. And so coming off that bye week, I think they need to just come out and stomp the Giants, and I think that'll happen.
Yep. I've also got the Ravens, and I've also got them as my lock of the week. I was doing a little bit of looking, and I haven't locked the Chiefs, the Ravens, the Lions, or the Bills yet this year. I really saved the best for last here, and I will use it. Then we've got the Bengals at Titans. I've got the Bengals in this one. I think it is a little closer than you would think, given how Cowboys and Bengals just went, and with the strength of the Titans defense, but I cannot put faith into the Titans offense, and also with Will Levis's injury, like who knows how bad or permissive or it's just going to ache and bother him the whole game. I'm going to go with the Bengals.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a lot less close than you think, but more close than people think. The Titans just put up 6 against the Jaguars. Like, I don't know if you know how insane that is, viewers. The Jaguars defense is like, they're atrocious. Like, the 2022 draft class, that was Trayvon Walker went first, and then Aiden Hutchinson went second. Mm-hmm. And Trayvon Walker's played in every game this year, and he still has less pressures than Aiden Hutchinson. And Aiden Hutchinson hasn't played since week 5, 6, is it? Like,
I think it was 6.
Yeah, this is a historic like levels of suckage from the Jaguars, and the Titans couldn't even beat them. So I don't think the Titans are going to be able to keep up with Jamar Chase and his 350-yard 4-touchdown performance. Write it down, clip it, take it to the bank. That's what's happening. And then we get into my Patriots taking on the Cardinals. I picked the Cardinals game correctly this past week. I picked the Seahawks over them. I think they need to win this one. I think they will win this one. But I really don't know. They have not looked convincing, and I just hope they win because I want the Patriots to have a better draft pick. I'm at that point of the season now where I'm like, winning gets us nothing except a worse player. So at our current position, if we lose out, we've got a shot at getting one of the absolute top guys, and I'd like to keep it that way.
Yep. I've got the Cardinals, so it seems you're doomed. You're going to win. You're going to get a worse draft pick because that's the way things go. Whenever I'm picking whatever game the Cardinals play in.
When we agreed on the Cardinals winning and they won. So
there's hope. There's hope for you yet.
A tiny bit.
And then we've got the Colts at Broncos. I've got the Broncos in this one. I mean, they're in such a tight race with the Chargers and, I mean, the whole of the AFC. They can't really afford to drop one. And the Colts are, not really much to play for at this point in the year.
Yeah. I agree. Broncos in this one at home. They're a little better than the Colts are right now, and I've got their defense in fantasy, so I really hope that things go our way in PickEms. And then I'm introducing both of them this week. Bills at Lions. Yep. This is a pretty unanimous game of the week. We did no discussion beforehand, but I was like, yeah, I'm picking. It's pretty easy to pick the two this week.
Dry.
Yeah, I've got the Lions in this one. The Bills just showed their weakness of playing in a shootout and not being able to get the stops they need, and the Lions have shown their prowess in shooting in a shootout and scoring. So I'll take them in this one. I think they have more to gain from a victory than the Bills do. The NFC, the top of the NFC race is just a little bit tighter, and every win counts a little bit more. So I feel like the Lions' hearts will be in it a little bit more than the Bills will.
Yeah, I think the home crowd that the Lions will be playing with is, for a game this big, is going to be rocking. So I'm going Lions here. I was never going to falter in that decision. And then we've got the Buccaneers at the Chargers. I've got the Chargers in this one. You kind of touched on it during your stocks where you feel that the Buccaneers is a little bit of a questionable game this week, and I'm buying into the questionable stuff there.
I am as well. I've got the Chargers in this one. I think the Bucs are good. I think Mike Evans needs to get a lot of yards to keep his 1,000-yard streak going. I don't know if he will, but I think he can. But yeah, I still think the Chargers are just gonna be the better team, and pull out the victory. I think it could go either way though, because the Bucs, I feel like they can either just suck any given week, and they can also drop 40 any given week on any defense. So I really don't know what's going to happen, but safe bet of the Chargers, I guess. And then we get Steelers at Eagles. The Eagles showed us a lot of their weaknesses this past week, almost dropping to the Panthers. Luckily, they won because that was my lock of the week. But I will be picking against them as they did not perform very well, and there's a little bit of dysfunction with A.J. Brown and Jalen Hurts' relationship not being so great. Some stuff got aired by Brandon Graham. I don't think it should have, but it did. And A.J. Brown, I know you were a Patriots fan, so maybe come over here, maybe. Yeah, okay. But yeah, going Steelers in this one.
Yeah, I'm actually matching your pick on the Steelers there, which, now that I think about it, what have we disagreed on?
Actually, quite a bit.
Rams,
Niners, and
oh, okay. No, I see them now. Okay, I was thinking for some reason that Rams Niners was our only disagreement, but no, I'm matching you on the Steelers here because NFC versus AFC, and the Eagles are one of the reasons why the Lions Bills game is so important. So them dropping one would make me happy, and the dysfunction is a good reason to think that they might.
Yeah.
Then we've got the Packers at the Seahawks. This one, I am not going with the, NFC 1 seed brain mindset. I've got the Packers in this one. As you said, I think that the Packers should be walking away from the loss feeling great. because they were able to stay in a fight that was that close and that dire against the 1 seed. So I've got the Packers in the game against the Seahawks.
Definitely. I also have the Packers. I think they're the second best team in the AFC or NFC. I mean, I think they could even be the second best team in the NFL. If I'm being completely honest, I think the AFC has some strong showings, but up at the top there's some question marks for sure. And I just don't know if there's anybody that I believe in as much as a team that was able to go toe to toe with the team that I feel is the best in the league in the Lions. So taking the Packers here, I'll probably believe in them for the rest of the season. And then we get into an NFC North matchup in the Bears at the Vikings. Pretty easy Vikings pick here. They're coming off of a really good showing, and the Bears not looking good at all, actually. 4 first half yards to the 49ers, 319 or whatever. So I think that the Vikings will take full advantage of this easy cakewalk for them.
Yeah, and I will agree with that. And then we have the other game of the Monday night doubleheader, the Falcons at Raiders, and I'm going with the Falcons. It's the Raiders. I really hope I'm right, but with how Kirk was looking, I'm not as confident in it as I should be.
I initially had the Falcons. I'm going to go ahead and flip that pick to the Raiders right now. It is a bold take. However, I have good reason. This is a Desmond Ridder revenge game, baby. He's going to do it. He's going to prove that he's better than Kirk O'Chains. He's going to prove that he's the best quarterback in the building that night.
That's crazy.
And I hope he targets Brock Bowers quite a bit. But yeah, Falcons not looking great. I think Jack Jones is going to have some big plays for the Raiders on defense if he's still playing. I actually don't know. Should probably look that up.
While you're looking it up, I would like to inform you of the fact that the Bengals defense is worse than the Jaguars defense.
The Jack Jones is active. You said the Bengals defense is worse than the Jaguars defense?
Yes.
I feel very strongly that the Bengals offense is just a little bit better than the Mac Jones led Jaguars offense. Just a hair, it's close. It's close.
Yeah, it's really close.
They're neck and neck there.
Yep.
Yes, Jack Jones is an active member of the Raiders, so I think he'll do some things to Kirk Cousins that Kirk ain't never seen.
Okay, jeez Louise.
Take the Raiders on,
and with
on
that, let's
matchup.
get the hell out of here.
Yeah, this has been a longer recording, going strong in an hour 15. Let us know your thoughts. Let us know your upset pick, your game of the weeks, all that good stuff. Let us know the Jets' thoughts, comments, all that stuff.
Words, thinking, talking, words.
Wisdom?
Wisdom.
Wisdom.
Yep.
Deuces.
Deuces.